Shalom, everybody.
Shalom.
Welcome to another edition, a part two of our Passover preparation. Rebus and I were talking earlier before, as we were preparing, and she said, "Can you believe that we get to do what we are doing tonight?" And I think that that is a good tie into the importance of remembering the Passover of history, the importance of remembering that this event that we're talking about actually happened in history. And it's the history of that event and the promises that God made about that event and through that event that give us confidence that once again this year, as we really focus on the Passover promise that God has for us, that God is able to bring us through everything we're experiencing this year, not just bring us through, but help us thrive through the things that we are experiencing because of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight. So the history of it and the promises through history, and that God is fulfilling these promises today, gives us credibility and it gives us confidence that what we are doing is right on track. So last week we took a look at a bit of the history of Exodus, the what is Passover, when does Passover happen, why do we do it? So you should ask. There's going to be a lot of asking tonight, I hope. And so as we get into it tonight, right on time, it's all about a festival. So, Rebison, tell us about this festival. How's it supposed to feel?
May I read from, remember last week I showed you a variety, and I know I'm not able to get this completely with the light we have above our heads, but there are just a couple of things from, this is once we had our grandchild to be born, it was important, even though we had many Haggadot, to have one that was specifically centered on this child, this next generation. And in this particular Pesach Haggadah, in the intro, I love this part. The Jewish people have found ways to experience freedom throughout the generations, even during trying times. There's one rabbi who writes that while one spirit can be free, that one spirit can be free even while a person is physically in bondage. And on the other hand, another can be spiritually enslaved even when physically free. We're going to explore some of that tonight. Faith and loyalty to the true freedom of being God's servant. Wow.
The freedom of being a servant
can be achieved at any time. So as we enter into this season, and there's more that I want to share with you tonight later on from this Haggadah, but as we enter this time of remembrance, and we are remembering in such a way as though we ourselves were slaves in Egypt, just as we are to remember and remember ourselves at that mountain with a cloud and the fire and the thundering noises as Moses went up to meet
truly a
with
majestic
Adonai.
experience, and it reflects this.
But we are remembering. It's not just that we are experiencing something that our ancestors experienced, and we're on their behalf, we're calling it. No, we are remembering as though we ourselves were those very ones in Egypt. And the incredible dichotomy of emotions and realities, slaves, freedom, sadness and tears, joy and dancing, tambourines. The overarching element for this observance, for this remembrance, is to have joy. Have joy. There is freedom, and we are to remember that we have the capacity to walk in that freedom. So what do? We dress as nicely as we're able to. We serve the very best food and fruit of the vine that we can around our tables. And we actually have a festival table. I am so excited. I'm already pulling things here in our home and imagining our those of our family who are able to be with us, especially the youngest, and imagine what they're going to do when they see my latest addition to our table or to our sideboard. And as we get to my guide, the retelling of the story, the things that we'll have actually on our table, it's not just a high meal. It's a reliving. It is a show and tell experience, and we're going to show and tell a few things with you tonight.
Well, you asked me if you could do something. I'm going to ask you if I can do something. Can I tell them about the table runner that we've had the last year or so?
Yes.
The table runner that we have, this is a good vision thing, destiny thing. The table runner is it's the Red Sea. It's literally looks like the water going through the Red Sea, and the whole thing becomes a storytelling. I get so excited about that. Today we actually, or yesterday, I can't remember, we were actually looking at wooden figurines that we can have as we continue this march to the Red Sea and through the Red Sea. Well, what a happy, happy time. And it's important to remember. Preparations are cleaning and cooking. I'm not the one who does, I do some of the cleaning. I do none of the cooking, obviously, but this is my part tonight. So what we do in the cleaning is remove the things from a house. They become a hindrance in moving forward. And so we call them leaven or leavening agents. It doesn't mean that we are just removing bread from our house, because bread's a good thing.
I like bread.
When we get to Shavuot, we literally have 2 large loaves of bread full of yeast.
Yeah,
full of yeast. So bread is a good thing. But what we remove from our houses when we remove the things that we're going to be removing, and every person does it at their own level for this year, but we remove the things that could even take good things and make them too important to us. So the Lord says that he wants us to remove the things from our lives that become more important than walking forward in the great blessings that the Lord has for us. So even if it's something we want to hold on to, we begin to prepare symbolic foods to help our children. The children have an important role in all of this.
Yeah.
So we prepare symbolic foods to help our children and those who come into our homes or into our community Seder to know how God delivered his people in history from slavery and how he rescued them and why he rescued them. So there are 3 really important elements. We'll explain these later. There's a lamb, there's matzah, and there are bitter herbs. But now we prepare the symbols and the Seder plate.
And the Seder plate, and thank you. Well, I decided not to try and have all of these elements tonight, but just so that each of us can remember the items that we have on that Seder plate and why we even have a Seder plate. We're going to use this one for my family. But again, I'm going to go back to the Haggadah. Dear kids, this is your night. The Seder night is meant for children. The parents and adults, that's us,
right,
are obligated to pass on the story of Pesach to the children and grandchildren. But that's not the job for you children to do. And I hope there are children listening tonight. I hope that parents bring your children in, let the seeds fall on the fertile ground of the little ones who are curious. And yes, and we're going to be touching and holding these things in Shabbat shul as well. So what is your job, children? What is your job, if our job is to pass on this story of Pesach to you, of Passover to you, what is your job? Your job is to ask, to learn, and to enjoy. So, what is this Seder plate all about? So you should ask. We have the shank bone. Remember, Rabbi mentioned lamb? Well, this is a shank bone from a lamb. We're going to be talking more of the next weeks about that little lamb, because it was a young lamb. It wasn't an old, tough, stringy lamb.
She's looking at me.
I'm remembering with you, Rabbi. But it was a young lamb, and this lamb became centrally involved in the experience of the children and the grown-ups, and it was from that very little lamb that the shank bone for the Seder plate would come. We have pizza. We have an egg. Why? Why an egg? We have this mixture, choroset, and we also have maror, the bitter herbs. We're going to go into a lot of detail in the next few weeks in our reenactments, reliving, retelling. We have parsley that we're going to be dipping in salt water. Why salt water? And then we have chazeret, which is a vegetable, lettuce or radishes. And in Shabbat Shul this past week, rather, we planted some of the things that we want to be on that Seder plate. We planted some parsley. We planted some radishes to symbolize what we would have on the Seder plate as a vegetable, and then some wonderful microgreens that might wind up on some of our salad plates for our actual community Seder. But it's important for our children to know the Beitza, the Zoroa, the Maror, the Karpas, the Choroset, the Hazeret. We want them to understand that there was a sacrifice. There was a price that was paid. There was a sacrifice that was made in order for us to have freedom. We want them to know the symbol of life anew, especially since we're going into this new spiritual month, the head of the year spiritually. So that egg, representative of the never-ending story. God has life eternal for us, and it's a symbol of spring, of new life. What comes out of that egg? New life. The maror, the bitter herbs. We know that in the experience of the retelling and the magid, there's bitterness. There's bitterness, and there are tears. There's crying out to God, because we know in Torah that God heard the cries of His people. The karpas, that vegetable, that lettuce or the radish, is fresh sustenance for life. And yet, we're going to dip it in some salt water. We don't just dip once. We dip twice. The choroset, the apples, nuts. This is in the Ashkenazi tradition. But the mixture, the sweet mixture that's representative of the mortar for the bricks that our ancestors had to use as they were building those storehouses and the cities that kept the pharaoh's treasures. And then the bitter herb, once again, to remember the bitterness, the new life in the vegetable, the egg, the bitterness and the tears, the sacrifice that was made, and then the sweetness.
So much fun
in the midst of the slavery, there was the ability to cry out to God.
It's so much fun to do this with you tonight. It almost feels like this is our preparation time. It's our energetic time. I love doing this with you tonight.
And it's so
I'm glad
fun.
you can share with us as we talk with each other about all of this.
You can see there's so much to share, and we're trying to squeeze it into this little bit of time.
We have 10 more minutes.
So, but we want to do a thorough job. So we're going to get tonight what we can, cover it as thoroughly as we can, share the passion of our hearts and our lives, because this is our real life.
Yes.
And the lessons that you and I and all of you and our little ones are to take in, to learn, to remember, and then to live, is that there was bondage and there was freedom. We're going to get to that a little bit later. But wherever we are in life, whatever is holding us tight in that olive press, we can breathe in the freedom of the Most High, of the Sovereign One, who provides us the way
every step
out of that squeeze.
Wow. So
good stuff.
As we go on now, we talk about who does this and who's a part of it. Exodus chapter 12, verse 8 says, that same night they are to eat the meat roasted over the fire, along with the bitter herbs and bread made without yeast. That same night, who is he talking about? He's talking about the parents, the leaders, but also they're having to lead their children. Mm-hmm. Their children need to know what's going on and what this is different. They're having to know what's going on. So I love if our children pick up anything from me and Rebbetzin, I hope that they'll pick up how important this is. How this is our passion, our heart, everything that we're talking about here, because it makes life understandable and helps us move forward. So there were three essentials. We talked about the three essentials earlier of the first Passover for the Israelites. The lamb, Pesach. The lamb represented suffering, but it also represented new hope. Somehow through that suffering would come new hope. So that's why we have that zaror. That's why we have that shank bone is on the plate. There are many Jews, Ashkenazi in particular, who don't eat the lamb at Passover because to them, in the Ashkenazic viewpoint, not to them, we are all one. But for our Ashkenazi brothers and sisters, it is a reminder that the temple no longer exists. But there are other traditions that do eat lamb or have other types of meat. So there's no one particular way to do it that is the Jewish way. There are many different Jewish traditions, but the important point is that a sacrifice took place, but within that suffering, there was new hope. Secondly, there were the bitter herbs, the maror. It represents that there's suffering, but there's also new life. So another type of suffering, but also in that suffering, there's new life. We use horseradish. There are many people who suffer when they eat too much horseradish when we do it at the Seder. That's one of my favorite parts of the Seder, the people who eat too much horseradish and the sounds that they make. It reminds us of the bondage of our forefathers and foremothers when they were slaves in Egypt. Their lives were filled with pain and bitterness. So that's two of the essentials, the lamb and the bitter herbs. The third essential, Rebbetzin.
The matzah. And this is representative of suffering and new freedom. We holding the matzah, and now I'll show you the matzah tash, or the matzah. Let me turn this the right way. Rabbi, could you get that side for me right there? There are three compartments here. The top, there's a middle compartment, and then there's a bottom compartment for that third piece. Thank you, Rabbi, for that third piece of matzah. And these rabbis going to be going through at the Passover Seder for our community, for our mishpacha and our community, and explain more about those three pieces of matzah. And you can see we have square matzah here, and I have some of my round matzah as well. It's gotten a little bit broken in transporting it, because we like to share this information with as many as we can. But why bread? You notice this is not those beautiful loaves of challah. Certainly not like those huge loaves that we have at Shavuot that are just big and fluffy and so delightful to eat. This is, well, just listen. You heard that.
It breaks.
It breaks. It is crumbly. It is not chewy and delightful in any way. This is lechem oni, the bread of affliction, as well as lechem cherut, the bread of freedom, the bread of liberty. So once again, we have this, wait a minute, you're talking about one kind of bread, masa. How can you call it both the bread of affliction and the bread of freedom? How can that exist in this? The bread represents mastery over the direction of our lives. How are we going to respond? Remember what I read earlier about we can know freedom even while we are physically in bondage. We know some of the stories that came out of the concentration camps during the Shoah, during the Holocaust. There were ways that our people found to remember, to observe. Could they have a full spread and beautiful clothing and the best food and the best fruit of the vine? Of course not. They were in bondage, and yet they found ways to remember, recall, retell the Passover.
It was passion to them.
So while their bodies were in bondage, while they were under the heavy hand of the afflictors, their spirits had the opportunity to experience freedom. We don't want to be those who are physically free and able to come and go as we please and we're so blessed to live in the abundance of being able to walk into a kitchen and having any food to eat, or turn a faucet and have clean water come out, or lie in bed at night knowing that while the animals are not going to be able to break in. That's not always been the case for our people, and there are people who are living in such a way now. But we want to remember, and we want our children to remember, this bread represents both the bread of freedom, even while our people were eating the bread while they were in bondage. In the Haggadah, we get to the Magid, which is the telling of the story. How I love this part. How I love it when there are
is to be a story,
children, and we'll share when we have more time ways that our family has done it in the past. But at this portion of the Seder, the one whose part it is to hold up and the matzah and begin the Magid would say, "This is the bread of affliction that our fathers ate in the land of Egypt." Now listen to this. Talking to the people around the table, a Seder table. "Whoever is hungry, let him come and eat. Whoever is in need, let him come and conduct the Seder of Passover. This year we are here. Next year in the land of Israel. This year we are slaves. Next year we will be free people." So the author of this Haggadah asked the question, since we're already sitting at the Seder, what is the significance of inviting people to come? If you're hungry, come and eat. A truly free person is able to see beyond our own needs and desires and give of ourselves to others around him. It's not just our little we four and no more. We're not a clique. We're so anti-clique. We're so anti having this for us. We look around. We look beyond. We're looking. Whoever's hungry, come. We have enough for you to come. Let us get beyond ourselves and what we are able to experience and reach out and draw in those who may never have experienced this or who have forgotten how to walk in the freedom that can be ours. The choice to see beyond ourselves and help others, to open our hearts and our doors, is an entry. It ushers us into the mindset of true freedom. So this bread represents the mastery over the direction of our lives. How then should we respond? Bread without leavening reminds us, bread without leavening, that's this, reminds us of how our forefathers had to be ready to leave Egypt in a hurry. Don't wait for that bread to rise. Don't even think about it. You prepare it, you put the materials into a bowl, and then you have it ready to take it up and run. There was no time to wait for that bread to rise. Leavening, yeast and other rising agents, often in scripture represent sin, represent something that can foment a little bit, can bubble and overflow and draw others in. God forbid. The 3 sheets of unbroken matzah are placed in that matzah tash, like I showed you, a special pouch with 3 sections. But if you don't have that, you don't have to worry about it, because all you have to do is take a napkin, a paper towel, and it could do the same thing. And then with the bread, finally, that middle piece of matzah that's taken out and broken at a specific time, and it is wrapped in a napkin and then placed in the afikomen bag. Afikomen, isn't it interesting? This is not a Hebrew word at all, is it, Rabbi? So there are interesting ways that our traditions have formed. But it's taken, it's hidden away, it's covered until later, when it must be brought out and brought back into the gathering of the people in order for the Seder to continue. So all of that out of this flatbread.
Yeah, such an exciting time. Along with the Seder plate, there are 4 cups of the fruit of the vine. And it helps us remember the 4 promises that the Lord gives us. So there are 4 cups of the fruit of the vine that set apart this Seder as very, very important. It's a holy experience of blessing. These 4 cups of the fruit of the vine symbolize joy. So there's a lot going on here with this joy. Well, it all comes out really in the promises that God has. So Rebbeson, Exodus 6 through 8.
And this is the heart. This, in fact, while we have that Seder plate, and that is such an important part of the remembrance, of the retelling, of the observance, these 4 cups are in the order, the Seder, for the Seder actually wraps around these 4 cups. And the telling is very specific for that first cup, that second cup, that third cup, that fourth cup. Why? Because of what God said. Therefore, this is Exodus 6, verses 6 through 8. Therefore, say to Bnei Israel, I am Adonai, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. That's not all. I will deliver you from their bondage, and I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great judgments. But he doesn't leave us there. I will take you to myself as a people, and I will be your God. You will know that I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. So I will bring you into the land that I swore to give to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, and give it to you as an inheritance. I am Adonai. Wow. So we have Vahoseti, I will bring you out. Vahitsalti, I will deliver you. Vaga'alti, and I will redeem you. Remember that Goel?
Yes.
And Valakati, I will take you to myself as a people, and I will be your God.
Wow, he's preparing us for this family experience where there is no fear, there is no shame, there is no death. He's leading us forward. So with all these things, and I hope parents, grandparents, whomever it is, we talk about the youngest also. If you invite other people to your Seder, emphasize that you want those who are the youngest in the room in age, but also maybe in understanding and faith. And so
true.
those who are this may be the first Seder they come to at your house. Encourage them to ask questions. Tell them that the reason we're doing this is so that you will ask questions. We're here to lead the world into these blessings.
Amen.
There's one more cup that brings us to the place tonight.
This one.
Oh, okay.
But we'll talk about that one first if we can.
Sure.
And then
Well,
I'll just mention,
go
you,
with
you
that
want me
one.
to go?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think you probably saw, I hope you saw the cup that Rabbi was holding up. And this is a very important cup. But we also in recent years have added a second cup. This is the Miriam cup. And while we've had the fruit of the vine in each of those 4 cups, and in the cup that Rabbi's about to talk about, in Miriam's cup, we put water. We want our daughters to remember that they have a role to play
Absolutely.
in the story of slavery to freedom, that they also are being called to be a part of God's people, his beloved ones. And we remember especially Miriam, who plays such an integral role in this whole story and leads the other women in joyous procession, singing, dancing, tambourine sounding. And so Miriam is remembered at our Seder table here in our home, and then at Congregation Beth Judah as well. Our girls, you have a role to play. God has destiny for you.
Yeah. At the end of the suffering and the tension of the Red Sea, it is Miriam who begins. I love it. They begin the singing. That's a celebration. Elijah's cup it's always at the table during the whole thing, but it's almost like it has a background role, but it represents the destiny, and especially that 4th cup. It's a symbolic cup. No one drinks from it, but it's on the table waiting for Elijah, who in some way will usher in the Messiah and the Messiah's kingdom again. You know, this is such an important part of the Bible. And so Elijah's cup heightens our awareness of a coming kingdom. It's a way that God says, I will bring you into the land. I swore to give to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Vayavati, I'm going to bring you into an experience that only I can bring you into. But you've got to keep your focus on me to enter into that experience. So we enter with this destiny. When Yeshua talked with him about this Seder, special Seder, not the last Seder, it's not the Last Supper, it's not the last Seder, but when he talked about that, Rebbetzin, in Luke chapter 22, verses 14 to 20, it's as if Yeshua is saying, I'm leading you in this really important one because something's going to happen, but I want you to be ready for the future.
When the hour came, Yeshua reclined at the table, and the emissaries with him. And he said to them, I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I tell you, I will never eat it again until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God. And when he had taken a cup and offered the bracha, he said, take this and share it among yourselves. For I tell you that I will never drink of the fruit of the vine from now on until the kingdom of God comes. And when he had taken matzah and offered the bracha, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, this is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. In the same way, he took the cup after the meal, saying, this cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you.
Until the kingdom, he's envisioning an experience that is still ahead of us. There's a broken matzah, his body. There's a cup of new life that came after the meal. There are multiple cups because there was one of blessing before the meal started. So there are multiple cups here. But in all of it, he emphasizes here that I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this for you. I want you to know how much I love you. I'm going through this so that you can come out on the other side of the Red Sea of your fear of life or death. I'm going to bring you through.
Mm.
In fact, he talks specifically to them, and they remember this in verse 28. He looked around that table, that Seder that he had with those folks of that day, and he said, "You're the ones who have remained with me in my times of testing.
Mm-hmm.
And just as my Father has granted me a kingdom, so I grant to you that you may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom, and you shall sit upon the thrones leading the 12 tribes of Israel." There's something ahead for us. Beloved, if you came into this tonight thinking, it's just so heavy, I just want to give up.
Mm.
Don't give up. Move up. Right now, tonight, let your faith move up to God as we prepare for our coming Passover Seder. He's preparing a kingdom and an experience for us where there's going to be a new kingdom, new types of leaders, but all of it is for the new life that he has for us. What fun to be here tonight. Father, will you prepare every home, every table to tell this story again on the first night of Passover or whatever night they're able, and bring other people around their tables so that the people, especially the youngest ones and the newest ones, will be encouraged to ask questions. That's their job. Thank you for being able to do this tonight with Gilly. Thank you for this life. I'm so glad we get to do this tonight. I'm even more glad that we get to do it with you all.
Mm.
So shalom, everybody.
Shalom, shalom.
We'll see you along the way.